Hi guys and girls, how are you all doing today? I got a special little video that I want to try out today. My previous video that I uploaded was an unboxing and sort of look at the new Criterion release of Night of the Living Dead. If you haven't seen that video yet and you want to check it out, I'll post a little link down in the description. But I had a lot of fun doing that, so I thought it might be fun to take a look at my entire Night of the Living Dead collection, and it's something that I've been working on pretty hard for a little while now, so I thought maybe, hey, I'll show it off a little bit and see what you guys think. To start things off, here is, of course, the original classic Night of the Living Dead, and this is really just one of those DVDs that is just sort of out there among the dozens and dozens of releases of the original film, since of course it's in the public domain. Lots of different companies put out the film, and this is released through Alpha Video, and you know, it's just one of those releases where the quality, the print doesn't look fantastic or anything, but it gets the job done, so that if you're looking for one of those, you know, kind of classic retro viewing experiences of Night of the Living Dead, this will do it, the Alpha Video release. But of course there's tons out there floating around that you can check out. Up next is the one that I just mentioned, the new Criterion Blu-ray release of Night of the Living Dead. Cannot recommend this one enough. The picture quality of the film is absolutely incredible, and there are all sorts of incredible special features on it as well. Of course, like I mentioned before, if you want a more in-depth look at this one, I'll post a link down below to my full unboxing video of this. Really happy that I picked this one up and have the original classic on Blu-ray, because it looks so good. And then of course we have the 1990 remake, which I absolutely love. I know it didn't get a whole lot of great critical reviews when it first came out, but has really turned into a cult classic. So if you're a Night of the Living Dead fan, this is definitely one that you gotta have in your collection. Directed by Tom Savini, of course, and I really enjoy this movie. I think it's a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. And this is a really nice Blu-ray release, actually, too, from Umbrella Entertainment. The picture quality looks pretty good. There are some special features on here, so I would definitely recommend picking up this one as well. Really like that one. Okay, here we go. Night of the Living Dead, the 30th anniversary edition, the much maligned, for good reason, 30th anniversary edition of Night of the Living Dead. If you haven't seen this one, you might want to keep it that way, although I think it is interesting. The fact that John Russo, who co-wrote the film, went back in and added new scenes to the original film, and then the score was also redone. I don't know if there were legal reasons behind that, but it really doesn't work very well. I'm a little less critical about this one than some other people are. I mean, there are people who just absolutely hate this film because they feel that it's taking the original classic and, you know, picking it apart and adding new things in a way that shouldn't be done. And I totally understand that, but it's at least worth checking out just to see what everyone has been talking about in terms of why it's so bad. Bill Heinzman, who played the original cemetery zombie in Night of the Living Dead, actually comes back and reprises his role 30 years later for some of the new scenes. And it's weird but like I said, it's worth, in my opinion, checking out. You can find it on Amazon for not too cheap, couple bucks. And then after that, we have the 2006 film Night of the Living Dead 3D starring Sid Haig. I have a little bit of a soft spot for this film. This is another one that a lot of people did not care for. If you read reviews online, there's a lot of pretty harsh critiques of this film. And I'm not trying to say it's the greatest thing in the history of the world, but I checked it out and kind of said, you know, it was fine. I kind of enjoyed it, actually. It's a slightly different take on the classic story. It's a farmhouse sort of thing, so they didn't stretch it too far, but there's some interesting things in this one, in my opinion. This is, of course, the 2D version. I think if you want the actual 3D DVD, it gets a lot pricier. So I just went with the 2D version because I'm not a big 3D fan anyway, and this got the job done for me. So again, another one that I would recommend sort of picking up just to check out if you're a Night of the Living Dead fan. I think it's worth having in the collection. And then speaking of that, this is kind of interesting that the same filmmakers went out and a couple years later, a handful of years later, made a sequel to Night of the Living Dead 3D, and it's called Reanimation. And this DVD is actually, as you can see at the top, there's a 2D version and there's a 3D version, and this release actually comes with 3D glasses. I don't recommend the 3D version. I tried watching it and it almost gave me a headache about halfway, maybe half hour through the film. So I ended up actually switching over to the 2D version. This one is really slow. It's a real slow burn. Sid Haig is not in it. Andrew Divoff, who you may know from the Wishmaster movies, I believe, is the ones that he's known for, and Jeffrey Combs is in it as well. And it's interesting. I mean, it's, again, not the best thing in the world, but certainly not the worst thing in the world. And if you're the type of person who enjoys a slow burn, this might be up your alley, because it's definitely not as fast-paced as the first one, and some of the effects leave kind of something to be desired. But again, maybe it's just because I love all these Night of the Living Dead movies, but I would consider checking this one out, especially if you enjoy the first Night of the Living Dead 3D film. Now we're getting into some obscure stuff here. This is called Night of the Living Dead Resurrection, and this is actually a British film that some people over in England decided to put together, again, because they could. And this one was okay. Kind of follows the classic farmhouse sort of story, but they put a couple twists on it here and there, and again, kind of a slow burn. Not a ton of action throughout the film. Kind of tells the story of a family sort of trapped dealing with the zombie apocalypse, and you know, definitely not my favorite in the collection, but not bad. I didn't mind it. I said, you know what, they're giving it their best, they're giving it their all, so that's okay. This is absolutely great. This is called Night of the Living Dead Reanimated, and you might notice that there's a lot of you got resurrection, reanimation. This one's called Night of the Living Dead Reanimated, and it came out, this says 2010. But what's really cool about this one is that a ton of animators sort of got together and collaborated and took the original film and animated scenes. And so I don't know if you can see on here, there's all these different animation styles. And so it's basically just the soundtrack of the original film playing underneath all of these animated scenes of the original film. And there's some actually really great animation in here. It's all sorts of different styles. I mean, puppetry, like claymations or stop motion type stuff. Some really interesting animated sequences in this. Definitely recommend checking this one out, and there's tons of bonus features on it as well. The quality of the DVD leaves kind of something to be desired. The you know, the encoding or whatever is not fantastic, so I wouldn't mind seeing like a Blu-ray release of this at some point in the future. But other than that, it's a really interesting take on the original film. Highly recommend picking this one up. And then last but not least, something called Mimesis, Night of the Living Dead. And this is an interesting take on the whole sort of Night of the Living Dead phenomenon, where it's not a direct remake. It's more sort of, it's hard to describe, but it's basically like some people sort of set this thing up where they're reliving the events of the movie. So within the film, Night of the Living Dead exists. They're actually watching it on TV at some point. And so it's an interesting take on it. However, the execution leaves something to be desired. I think their heart was in the right place on this one, but it's just really low budget, and it shows. You can tell that it's just not the best thing in the universe. Sid Haig is in it. He returns, so he's in another Night of the Living Dead movie. I would say worth checking out if you have it streaming somewhere, but there's this is maybe one that you don't necessarily need to have in your collection. There's an audio commentary track, a little bit of special features on there, but this one was okay. So that's pretty much everything that I have right there. Like I said, I've been working on my collection for quite a while, and you know, the crazy thing is there's more out there. I'm always scouring the internet for more different versions of Night of the Living Dead, because I just think it's an interesting little phenomenon that people can go out and make their own version of this film because it's in the public domain. So if you're interested in any of these, and you know, kind of starting your own collection, that's kind of a little a primer on how to get started. Like I said, there are more out there, and there's more on the way that are in production and post-production. So just, you know, get out there and do a search for Night of the Living Dead, and they should pop up. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.